Hold on to your butts, because I'm about to get deep with Anchorman, the Legend of Ron Burgundy. That is, if there's any depth to be found. Now, not that there's actually any spoilers to talk about, but just in case...
Spoiler warning.
This is not a normal review. This is Deconstructing the Narrative. This is a new feature on my channel, so if you like it, make sure that you hit like and comment down below what you thought of it. Don't forget to subscribe either. Honestly, this shouldn't take too long because there's not much to this movie. There's not much depth. There's not much narrative. It was almost completely ad-libbed from beginning to end, and they had so much content that they split the movie into 2 parts. So when they split it, they also split some of that narrative along with it. But as it is, I'll take a look at the theatrical version of the movie, as that's the one that most people have seen, and we'll just see how that does. First, we look at the seed. What is at the heart of this movie that everything seems to revolve and orbit around, and everybody seems to have perspective on? Interestingly enough, this is one of the only things the movie actually has when it comes down to narrative structure. It's all about the theme, or maybe the tone of diversity, as initially seen when Veronica is hired onto the lead news team. That very act created a subtle difference in the atmosphere and ultimately an inequality or an imbalance that the entire news team feels because there's now a woman working with them. That inequity, or maybe that imbalance, is ultimately what the protagonist would be created to resolve. Maybe through an external effort to maybe fire her from the news team, maybe from an internal effort to find out that hiring her was the right choice to make and it was actually helpful to them. But unfortunately, that's as far as we can go with what ifs, because there is no such thing as a protagonist in this movie. While the theme and conflict exists, there is nobody there to resolve it. It can't be Ron Burgundy because he doesn't really care that she's working there, he actually just wants to date her. It is certainly not Veronica because she never once feels a state of imbalance like something is wrong. She's a strong, independent woman, even though that's, not always the case. She's pretty inconsistent. The fact of the matter is there is nobody in this movie, not one person, that cares about resolving the conflict. And because there's no protagonist, there's no protagonist goal. And if there's no protagonist goal, then there's no antagonist who is diametrically opposed to the protagonist's goal. This is where the snowball effect comes into play, right? Because if one bad thing happens that's connected to the other thing turns into a bad thing, and it's just one thing after the next. There is, however, a main character, or at least a partial main character, and it is not Ron Burgundy. It is Veronica. Why I say that's actually kind of complicated, because when it comes down to focus, there's a lot of focus on Ron Burgundy and Veronica about equally, but why is it Veronica that's the main character? Because Veronica's actually trying to do something. She has a personal stake in the story. She's trying to do something. She's trying to make something of herself. She's trying to be a strong, independent woman, even though she's not always. She's an entirely inconsistent character when it comes down to it, but she's the only one that's actually trying to do something. But because the focus isn't on her all the time, it's only a very partial importance. Also, interestingly enough, there's no influence character in the movie. There is nobody that challenges her viewpoint on the world. She is always steadfast, and that's fine, but she's not steadfast against anybody trying to thwart her vision of the world. You can easily say that it might be Ron Burgundy who's the influence character, and I would understand where you're coming from. His worldview is so incredibly inconsistent that you can't place him in the category of influence character, because you can't be for somebody and against them at the same exact time, which essentially is what Ron Burgundy is. So in a literary sense, nobody actually challenges her character, so there's no real growth, there's no real resolve, but there is a half main character, so there you go. At the end of the day, it is what it is. That's all I can really say about it. It's a comedy, it's a dumb comedy, it's not really trying to be anything else, and that's what happens. The foundation of the film is actually strong, the issue at hand, diversity. But it's a lot of wasted potential because it's not exactly an area that's hard to work around. There is no protagonist, there is no antagonist because there's no protagonist, and there's no influence character. The only thing it has is a partial main character. The rest of it's just dumb humor. It's not exactly a surprise, but it is kind of interesting. This is an example of a movie that has a terrible narrative, but you can have a good time watching it. Guys, tell me what you thought of the original Anchorman movie in the comments down below. As for YouTube, you know you can subscribe to me, hit that like button, hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my next deconstructing video. Peace out!